Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome to Road to Jesus Ministry. Today, I'm going to be covering something that's important to understand and know in these end times, which is the first and second beast in the book of Revelations, right? This is prophesied in the book of Daniel in the Old Testament, right? The fourth beast that rises up that is exceedingly strong. That's a mixture of all three beasts before it, right? And then in the book of Revelations, it talks about the first beast rising out of the sea, and then the second beast rising out of the land, right? And it's multifaceted. It has 10 horns. It has a mouth like a lion. It has like feet like a bear, right? And it has another horn that pops up. So we're going to be going into detail what each part of this beast represents. But first, we're going to go over macro agendas and events that have been going on for the past couple decades to get us to this point. So you have a better understanding and clarity of why the first and second beast is what I'm explaining, right? So these are the verses here that are popped up on the screen that I'm going to be going over, okay? But like I said, so pause the video and read these for yourself before we start. But towards the end of the video, I'm going to be going over every single one in detail, so you can just wait at the end. So I'm showing all these macro agendas and global events first. So as we get into these scriptures at the end, everything will be better to visualize and understand. The first beast is the Mahdi. The Mahdi is a final leader in Islamic eschatology who is believed to appear at the end times to rid of the world of evil and injustice. He is said to be a descendant of Muhammad who will appear shortly before the prophet Isa, which is Jesus Christ, and he will lead Muslims to rule the world. If you talk to most imams, they will acknowledge that they also believe in the return of the Mahdi. The second beast in the Bible is the Pope, which exalts and gives power unto the first beast. He is also known as the false prophet, which is why he has two horns like a lamb and speaks like a dragon, which is the devil. Muslims also believe that Jesus returns in the end time, so the Pope will claim that he is the representative for Jesus, and that the return of Jesus is supposed to be taken figuratively and not literally. So it's basically talking about the church reigning from Jerusalem for 1,000 years spiritually. The Vatican issued an official statement that millennial claims could not be safely taught, and that the related scriptures and revelations, also called the Apocalypse, should be understood spiritually. Catholic author Bernard Lefrost wrote, "Millennium, since the Holy Office decreed July 21st, 1944, that it cannot be safely taught that Christ at his second coming will reign visibly with only some of his saints risen from the dead, but for a period of time before the final and universal judgment, a spiritual millennium is to be seen." St. John gives a recapitulation of the activity of Satan and the spiritual reign of the saints with Christ in heaven and his church on earth. So like I said, the beast is multifaceted. So I just wanted to first just go over who the key figures were for the first and second beast in the Bible, okay? But the beast, like I said, has 7 heads and 10 horns, and these also represent certain things, okay? Like the G7, the 10 horns represent certain regions, okay, and certain kings. And like I said, everything will make sense towards the end of the video. But at first, it was important for me to briefly mention the imams and the future Mahdi, okay, and the Pope, because as we go through these articles, everything is gonna click a little better. We are starting with an important event that took place in 1964, known as the Vatican II Council. This is where official cardinals and bishops gather to talk about doctrine and changes. They don't happen often, and the last Vatican one took place in 1869. This is important because a very important change took place during the Vatican II Council, stating that Muslims are now part of salvation. But the plan of salvation also includes those who acknowledge the Creator, in the first place among who are Muslims. These profess to hold the faith of Abraham, and together with us they adore the one merciful God, mankind's judge on the last day. Over the centuries, many quarrels and dissensions have arisen between Christians and Muslims. The Sacred Council now pleads with all to forget the past and urges that a sincere effort to be made to achieve a mutual understanding for the benefit of all men. Let them together preserve and promote peace, liberty, social justice, and moral values. Then, just a few years ago, the Pope and the Grand Imam signed a historic pledge of fraternity. This created a fraternity that finally puts to rest the idea that we do not worship the same deity, whether we call that deity God, Allah, ground of our being, or nameless one. News went all around the world mentioning how the Pope had brought new life to Muslim Catholic relations. These are all stepping stones for a one world religion, with Imam and Catholicism leading the way, which is why they are introducing the United Nations for Religions, led by the Pope. The United Nations is the largest international organization with 193 member states. We then see the Pope and Grand Imam making call for unity and peace at the United Nations Security Council, and then see the Pope getting praised at the United Nations for taking efforts to combat anti-Muslim prejudice. They are paving the way to unite all religions for peace and justice, and why all world religions are following the Pope's steps and stating that they share the same values. We can see all this coming together with the Interfaith Council the Pope created, which then led to the One World Religion Headquarters, also known as Chrislam. It's already officially opened. So just remember, as a quick little recap, right? We saw how in the Vatican II Council, there was a major change where basically Muslims are now part of salvation. But as a Christian, you understand that that is impossible because you need to believe in the death and resurrection of Christ. You need the blood of Christ to be part of the new covenant. You need to acknowledge he is the creator, right? That he did die on the cross and rose on the third day. And Muslims, based on their own Quranic teachings, only believe he's a prophet. They do not believe he died on the cross, nor died at all. Right? They believe that someone else died on the cross and it wasn't Jesus, and that Jesus got caught up to heaven, according to their own Quran. So because we know, we must have the blood of Jesus and have faith that Jesus is the I am, right? That he is God. It is impossible for them to be part of salvation if they don't acknowledge these key things. As mentioned, we will go over all the verses in detail at the end, but one of the description of the beast is that it has a mouth like a lion. It has authority to change the times and the law, and it forces everyone to worship it or be killed. The lion resembles the king of Babylon, who set up the golden statue and forced everyone to bow down and worship it when they heard the music throughout the city. Islam stems from the same Babylonian traditions, which is why they face and bow down to the black cube in Mecca, and why they also have music that reminds them to prayer, which occurs 5 times a day, which is called the azan. Whether it's Egypt or Babylon or even kingdoms before that, all traditions stem from the same source, which is Satan. This is why we see conditioning of society today to accept kneeling down. They're even taught to use the exact same stance from Egyptian times. This is why the Black Lives Matter went throughout all the countries. So everyone partook in this Black Lives Matter movement. It wasn't just a small little thing that occurred only in the U.S. So we saw, colleges, professional teams, government officials, musicians, actors, all follow this procedure of kneeling down, right? And as mentioned, it's paving the way for the rise of the first and second beast. Now let's cover what the Bible means by the second beast will exalt power into the first beast. The coronation, which is where the Pope places crown upon the monarch's head, meaning they are officially given power to rule, but of course with the Vatican and papacy still in charge behind the scenes. We see the coronation with Charlemagne, Charles of France, Charles of Hungary, and dozens more, even till now with King Charles recently. The Pope has been giving power to leaders for many centuries. So I'm not going to be going over the full history of the Roman Empire and the full history of the Catholic Church, but just it's important to understand some key things because to help you understand how this coronation event took place back then and why it still takes place till this day. Okay, so in 33 AD, Jesus died, right? The gospel started spreading like wildfire. The Romans were persecuting the Christians like crazy. They were feeding them to lions, right, at the Colosseum. They were torturing them in all forms of ways. And the gospel just kept spreading faster and faster and faster. So what they did was they hijacked Christianity from the inside out with their power and influence, right? And in 313 AD, Constantine created the Edict of Milan, which basically tolerated Christianity. And Christianity started becoming the state religion of the Roman Empire, right? But it wasn't true Christianity. They started just mixing all this pagan stuff that they used to worship and believed, mixed with Christianity, all in one. But they had the power and influence, and they started creating this power structure of religious leaders. Okay, so and this was possible because even within the first century there was something called the College of Pontiffs, right? And they're also known as the Master of Religions, and they were responsible for understanding like religious stuff and administrative stuff and rituals and stuff like that, and to guide whoever the leader was of the Roman Empire. So you would have the Caesar of Rome, right, who would be elected and who would be in power, and you would have the College of Pontiffs behind the scenes guiding them. Okay, so just like now, We have emperors and kings, like, or in the monarch system, right? And we have behind the scenes, which is the Pope and the cardinal system, guiding them, making sure they're pushing whatever they're told to do. Okay. And we're going to see in this video that I'm about to post up how the same structure from the College of Pontiffs, even from the statue of their coin and how what they're named and how they operate, is still the same, even from the Roman time period. As we see here, in practice, particularly during the late Republic, the office of Pontifex Maximus was generally held by a member of political prominent family. It was a coveted position mainly for the greatest prestige it conferred on the holder. Julius Caesar became the Pontifex in 73 BC and the Pontifex Maximus in 63 BC. The College of Pontiffs was a body of the ancient Roman state whose members were the highest ranking priests of the state religion. The college consisted of the Pontifex Maximus and the other pontifices. When Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire, Pope Leo began using the title Pontifex Maximus around 440 to emphasize the authority of the Pope. The term chief priest in the New Testament, it translated as Pontifex in the Latin Vulgate as the high priest. This is why we see emperors in the old coins back then, right? You see the title right there, Pontifex Maximus, and we see the Pope till this day have the exact same title, Pontifex Maximus, with basically the same symbology, same description, same type of stance in the coin, right? So everything is the same because, like I said, the College of Pontiffs stems from the same thing.
The Caesar of Rome would be elected by the Roman Cura of the College of Pontiffs, called the Pontificum Collegium, and he would become the Pontifex Maximus, better known as Caesar of Rome. The Vatican is the continuation of this Roman Cura, with the Cardinal Cura, the College of Cardinals, who elects the head pontiff and title of the Pope, which is the Pontifex Maximus, better known as the Caesar of Rome. The Pope sits as Caesar of Rome, as the continued Caesar of the old Roman Empire.
Sociali senza contrapporre Dio e Cesare. Contrapporre Dio e Cesare sarebbe un atteggiamento fondamentalista.
The College of Pontiffs from Roman times are simply now called the College of Cardinals. There are 222 of them, which are appointed by the Pope for life. They are the same powers led by Satan, but with a fresh disguise. This is why when we look at the old Roman Empire map regions and then compare it to the new the EU, European Union, and Arab League map zones, we see the exact same regions of control and power, except now we see the new power structure shared between EU and Islam, aka paving the way for the Pope and the Mahdi beast system, which is described in the Bible, right? We see the first and second beast rise up, and they will have massive control. The Pope is an important speaker in the EU Parliament, which fits perfectly with the EU and Arab League map shared in the last slide. Watch my video, The True Meaning of the Number 666, to fully understand why the EU plays such an important role in these end times. Also, the Rothschild and Pope are heavily connected. In 1954, the Rothschild and Paul Henry Spaak worked together on the Treaty of Rome before the final signing of the treaty in 1957. Shortly before the treaty was signed, the Rothschild was standing beside Spaak gazing over the Forum Romanum in Rome when Spaak said, "I think we have reestablished the Roman Empire without a single shot being fired." So before we get into the official verses, I just want to go over just a few more images to kind of give people a better visualization of who the Catholic Church is actually worshiping and following, right? Which is not the true Christian faith, and how many of the things are brought from prior power structures, whether it's the Babylonians or the Egyptian time frames. Okay, we know that Satan, ever since the fall of Adam, right, it uses whatever power structure, whatever is the most powerful structure at the time. Okay, so at one point it was the Babylonians, and other times it was the Egyptians and stuff like that. So we're going to see things trickle down from these prior future powerful kingdoms to even till now. Okay, so we're going to see a lot of symbology. If you have a spiritual eyes to see, right, you're going to kind of understand. So we saw from the Babylonian time frame, right, we saw the golden image set up. Nebuchadnezzar forced people to bow down and worship when they heard the music, right? And they were required to do so or they would be killed. Okay, we see in the book of Revelations that the exact same thing happens, that the beast of the image gets propped up. People are commanded to worship it. If they don't, they are killed, right? We see in the Babylonian time frames, music was played, and when the people heard the music, they would get down and face the image and pray. Now Muslims, that stems from the Babylonians, because they do the exact same thing. They face the Mecca, right? They face the back cube. Whenever they hear the music, which is like 5 times a day, they must do it no matter what they're doing, okay? And so we see, right, if you have spiritual eyes, to see how things are stemming down from prior kingdoms even till now. Okay, so now we're going to see how the Catholic Church brought stuff, as if you didn't, which we already saw, right, from the Catholic time period, not from the Catholic time period, from the Roman time period, right, till now, right? But they still bring in things like the upside down cross, which we're going to see, the evil eye from, which is the evil eye from Egypt. And we're going to see the, like, did I say upside down cross? We're going to see the serpent, right? And we're going to see all this symbology right in front of people's faces. For one, we see Egyptian leaders back in the day being carried around in this manner. And we see the Pope using the exact same style and format. We see a prior Pope wearing a big golden cross. And as we look closer, right, we see that has the Egyptian one eye in the center. This symbol is not just on a cross, but can be found on other attire within the Catholic Church. This eye is passed down from Egyptian time period and resembles an Egyptian god. First names for it were Ptah, which is the architect of the universe, the Eye of Ra, the Eye of Horus. Freemasons today use it for occult practices and call it the Eye of Providence, right? Which is also found on money, and even New Age people and occultists use it, and they call it the evil eye, and they protect it from evil spirits. They think it protects them from evil spirits. Other red flags clearly shown by the Vatican is the upside down cross on the chair, which even Satanists use when they do rituals. And another red flag is the Vatican building that clearly is meant to resemble a serpent, the same serpent resembling the fall of Adam and Eve in the garden, right? So ask yourself, why would someone that resembles Jesus, right, that resembles the church and have so much power and influence, why would they carry on these things that were rebuked by people in scripture, right, by the apostles or even in the Old Testament, right? Why would they use the one eye from Egypt, which was one of the most powerful symbols you could have at the time, right? Why would they have an upside down cross? Why would they have, what else? Buildings resembling a huge serpent, right? You have to be blind to not understand the symbology that is right in people's faces, right? I mean, that's right in front of your face, right? So I hope, like I said, I was just kind of showing this to kind of help link everything together, to show you why the Pope is the second beast, right? And hopefully bring to fruition and make everything else make sense that we covered so far. Because like I said, the traditions of the Catholic Church are so strong that even if you use scripture to back things up that are wrong, even if you show certain things to them, they will still stay a faithful Catholic. And this is why most of my family is still Catholic till this time, no matter what type of evidence I try to provide, and even in a loving way, right? It just doesn't help, because the traditions are so strong, because people had their great grandpas and mothers that were partook in all these Catholic traditions. So it's so hard for people to break free from this unless you are open-minded and humble, willing to be corrected, right? And like the Bible says, I think it's in 2 Timothy 3:16, or I might have got it wrong, but anyways, all scripture is God-breathed and used for correction, rebuke, and training in all righteousness, right? And it says, test all things and hold fast to what is good, right? So we're supposed to test all things. We're supposed to understand the scriptures. And if it's not in scripture, you don't follow. It's that simple, right? So anyways, now we're going to go just into all these verses in detail, and that'll be it for the video. So hopefully everything makes sense. In Revelations 13:1-8, we see the first beast. And it says, and I saw the beast rising out of the sea, and with 10 horns and 7 heads, and with 10 diadems on its horns, and blasphemous names on its heads. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard, and its feet was like a bear, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed. And the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast, and they worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like the beast? Who can fight against it? And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words. And it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. And it opened its mouth and uttered blasphemous against God, blaspheming his name and his dwelling, that is, who dwell in heaven. also it was allowed to make war with the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given it over every tribe and people and language and nation, and all who dwell on the earth will worship it. Everyone whose name was not found written before the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb, and who was slain. All right, so let's go over this real quick. We see the beast is rising out of the sea, right? The next beast that we're going to cover is rising out of the land. So the sea just means that it's the political system. It's fluid. It's constantly changing, okay? We see that it has 10 horns and 7 heads. 7 heads are the G7 nations, which are one of the most powerful countries in the world, which have a big uniting together. They unite together and support each other and basically have each other's back, right? And the 10 horns are 10 kings, but also 10 regions around the world that we're going to see later. Okay. I'll keep going more into detail because, like I said, there's about 6 different full verses that we need to go over. So first, I'm just going to give a quick summary, and then I'm going to go more into detail. And so we saw that the beast was like a leopard, right? So this is like the kingdom of Alexander, right? Throughout the Greek time period, he took over extremely fast. So Islam is going to take over, is going to keep spreading extremely fast, right? And we see that it has feet like a bear, right? And bear was Cyrus, right? He dominated 3 kingdoms throughout his time period. So just like the G7, the 7 heads are going to dominate the 3 kings, which is Russia, India, China. Watch my 3 Kings Subdued video that I it's literally just a video specifically for this end times prophecy, the G7 versus the 3 kings. Okay. So this is why the beast has feet like a bear, because he tramples over 3 different power countries, which is Russia, India, China, right? And it has mouth like a lion. And who was the lion, right? It was Nebuchadnezzar. And what did Nebuchadnezzar do? He commanded, right, for people to worship his golden statue. And if they didn't worship it, they would be killed, right? So whenever the music played, people were commanded to bow down and worship the statue, right? And so this is why it has a mouth like a lion, the first beast, right? And the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. So we see the devil, right? Basically, Islam is the new religion that is the main religion that is followed, right? So we see also here that, it has a mortal wound, and the mortal wound is healed, and the whole earth is like wowed by it, right? And after that, they worship the dragon, for he had given great authority to the beast, right? So we see something happening to this first beast, right? Like I said, and then he is healed, and then the massive worship continues to get pushed harder and harder, right? And then it says in the second part here, in the second paragraph, right? And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words. So it's able to basically speak like God, right? Or act and represent as God. When Muslims think they worship and serve God, but in general, everything they're doing is blasphemous and against God, right? So as Islam spreads, more and more of this stuff that is not biblical will continue to spread, right? And it says it's allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. So that's 3.5 years. So for 42 months, it's going to have the authority to do whatever they want, whether it's Sharia law or whether it's to implement the mark of the beast or whatever they want, right? They're going to be able to do so, right? And what else does it say here? And it's allowed to make war with the saints and to conquer them. I don't know if you know this verse, but in Matthew, it talks about, the great tribulation. The tribulation will be so bad that it'll be worse since the beginning of time, right? So this is why, because authority is given to this person, or to the beast, right? And he's able to implement new laws and all this stuff, right? And then authority is given to them to, like I said, conquer the saints and wear us out. And then it says also, it has the authority given over every tribe, people, and language and nation, and all who dwell on the earth to worship it. Just like when we see in this, in the upcoming verse of Daniel that we're going to cover, right? We're going to see that Nebuchadnezzar did the exact same thing, exact same wording, that every tribe, people, language, and nation worshipped it, right? So this is the same thing here. This is why I said the beast has a mouth like a lion. So yeah, that's it for the first beast. In Revelations 13:11 through 18, it talks about the second beast, stating, Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon, and it exercised all authority on the first beast in its presence, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, and whose mortal wound was healed. It performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to earth in front of people. And by the signs that is allowed to work in the presence of the beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image of the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so the image of the beast might even speak and might even cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for its number of a man, and his number is 666. So now let's do a recap about the second beast, right? We see that it's rising out of the earth, right? And we saw the first beast rising out of the ocean. So the earth is religion. It's firm, right? So we know it's religion because right after it says it has 2 horns like a lamb, right? And who is the lamb? The real lamb? Jesus is the Lamb of God, right? Because he was the perfect sacrifice for our sins, right? And he spoke like a dragon. So he looks innocent, but he speaks. He's commanding to do everything contrary to what's biblical, right? And it says it exercises all authority of the first beast in its presence, right? And it makes the earth and inhabitants worship the first beast. So it exalts, just like we talked about in earlier things that we showed, the coronation, right? That where the Pope gives power into emperors or whatever, right? Kingdoms. He's going to exalt the Mahdi, and the Mahdi is going to have authority, just like emperors and kings or whatever have the authority to do what they want with their country, right? But this is on a global scale. This is why Islam spreads all over. This is why everyone is commanded to receive the mark. This is why everyone is commanded to worship, right? And this is only allowed, why? Because the second beast gives power and authority unto the first beast. And we know the first beast is the Mahdi, right? The Mahdi, but behind the scenes, there's the G7 and the 10 regions with the 10 kings, right? But in general, it's the Mahdi, which is going to be the face, the Pope, which is running the show behind the scenes, and in the G7 countries that is ensuring everyone stays in lines and follows what's commanded by the first and second beast, right? This is why it's able to take place on a global scale, like massive scale. We're not just talking about one city, one state. We're talking about multiple. We're talking about the entire world following these commands, right? And it's only possible if you have an organization and everyone is in unison, right? And then we see here, it performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven and on earth in front of people. And by the signs, it was allowed to work the presence of the first beast and deceives those who dwell on the earth, right? Telling them to make an image, right? So basically, it heals the first beast. It performs these great signs and it fools the world. And then it's able, while they're doing this, they're getting the trust. They're getting trust from the entire world, right? And then once they build enough trust, right, it deceives the whole earth, telling them to make the image of the beast, right? So the Pope, right, who's in power, is going to tell them, hey, we should honor them, right, and make the image, because that is what they want. This is what everyone is basically cheering for, right? So they are successful, right, because they are allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak, right, and cause those who would not worship the image to be killed, right? So this could be just a hologram in the temple or some sort of thing. We know that hologram technology is very popular and it looks so realistic. So it's likely just a huge hologram in there, and people could go there and worship it, and they're going to be giving commands or something. But only time will tell, right? This is from my understanding of what it could be possible, right? So what else here? So we see that the image comes to life, that it speaks and it commands to do stuff, right? And then it says it causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead. So the first and second beast are there. They're in power. They get the world's trust. They prop up the image, right? Once the image is propped up, they are commanded to worship it or be killed. And then on top of that, they causes everyone in the entire world, no matter who you are, to be marked on the hand or the forehead. So this is the microchip that comes in your hand, right? Or the brain chip right? So forehead just means the location of your brain, right? So it's the brain chip. And yeah, so what else? And the name of the beast, the number of his name. So this is, I'm not going to go into detail about this one, but just I highly recommend watching my video, The True Meaning of 666, because I go in like a full detail pack in how this comes to be, okay? In Revelation 19:20, it states, "And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet, who was in the presence and had done the signs by which he deceived those who had received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped its image. These two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur." So I'm just showing you here, right? I'm just showing this verse because it says here that the beast was captured, right? And the false prophet. So we know that the false prophet is tied with the second beast, is the second beast, right? Because it says it had done signs to deceive the world. And we see the second beast had done signs and it healed the first beast, right? And it had done signs that deceived the world, right? So we see that the first beast and the second beast, which is also known as the false prophet, get thrown into the lake of fire. And we see here also from this verse that it's because of them, the first and the second beast together, that all these things were able to take place. Like I said, the prop up the image of the beast, to implement the mark of the beast, right, which is the microchip, and these things. So like I said, towards the end we get justice, and Jesus throws them both in the lake of fire. So now we're going to be going over the verses of Daniel. It's just 3 verses, right? And it's going to help align and give an understanding of, the golden image and what happened at the time during Nebuchadnezzar's, and also give a better description and understanding of the fourth beast that is described in the book of Revelations, which is also, like I said, described in the book of Daniel. So Daniel 3, verse 1 and verses 4 through 7, Nebuchadnezzar's golden image. And King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and his breadth 6 cubits. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. And the herald proclaimed aloud, "You are commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, you are to fall down and worship the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, as soon as all the peoples heard the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, all the peoples, nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the golden image and that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up." Right? So I'm basically just showing this verse because, like I said, it ties in well with what happens in the first and second beast, and how, like I said, it has a mouth like a lion, and Nebuchadnezzar at the time resembled the lion, right? So like I said, he's able to command people to follow these things. And we see the exact same descriptions, right? That when every kind of music, all people, nations, languages fell down and worshiped the golden image Nebuchadnezzar has set up, right? So we saw in, where was it? Let me see here. In Revelations 13, right, towards the end here, it says, "And it was allowed to make war on the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given," right here, "for every tribe, people, and language and nation, and all who dwell on the earth to worship it," right? And if they didn't, they would be killed. So it's the exact same thing as we read in Daniel here, right? And in Daniel 7, verses 23 to 25, it states, "Then he said, as the fourth beast, there shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all the kingdoms, and there shall devour the whole earth, and trample it down, and break it into pieces. And as for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them. He shall be different from the former ones, and shall put down 3 kings. And he shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and it shall think to change the times and the law, and they shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time." So Daniel here is referencing the exact same beast in the book of Revelations, right? So we see here, right, that the fourth beast is the fourth kingdom, and it shall devour the whole earth, and it shall break it into pieces. And we saw that the first and second beast, what? They conquered the whole earth and make everyone worship the beast and worship it, right? And they make the whole world get the mark of the beast. We see here that it has 10 horns, and out of this kingdom 10 kings. So as I said earlier, right, the 10 horns are 10 global regions, and those 10 global regions will have 10 different kings or people ruling it, right? So it's not enough just to have the Mahdi and the Pope, because if you just 2 people and 2 people are saying, hey, you better do this, they're not going to do it. But you need government power. You need a huge organization to make sure people follow the rules, right? So like I said, it'll be 10 global regions, throughout the world. There'll be 10 kings, which are running every single region. What else? And another shall arise after them, which is the Pope, which is different, right? So there's going to be 10 global regions, and the Pope, the false prophet, is going to come as the hero and kind of unite the world, unite all the religions, let the Mahdi do what it wants to do, while disguising itself as friendly, while forcing, making sure the rest of the world leaders are implementing whatever he's telling them to do, right? And whatever Islam and the Mahdi want to do. And what else here, right? And it says it shall put down 3 kings. And like I said, 3 kings are Russia, India, China. I don't want to go full detail into this. Just watch my 3 kings subdued video because it's specifically for this, right? And what else? And towards the end, it spoke words against the Most High and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and it shall change the times in the law. So the saints, the true believers of Christ, are going to get conquered. Just like I talked about, tribulation will be worse since the beginning of time, right? And but there's hope for the saints, because watch my 3.5 years video for that, right? I highly recommend that, right? And it's like I said, it shall change the times, whether it's implementing Sharia law or other types of law, like requiring the mark of the beast and all this other stuff, right? They're going to be allowed to do that. And then at the end here, it shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. So time, times, and half a time is the same thing as 1,260 days. It's the same thing as 3.5 years. It's the same thing as 42 months. So like I said, watch my 3.5 year video to understand all these time frames that I condense all in a specific video as well. Okay, so it's going to have authority for 3.5 years, which is the time of the Great Tribulation, to implement all these laws, to be able to conquer the saints and to do whatever they want, and basically rule over the world until Jesus returns, right? So let's go back here. So we saw that, right, in Daniel 7. And just to go back in Revelations 13, 1 through 8, as you know, when we talk about the first beast, we see once again it has 10 horns and 7 heads, right? And it's compared to a leopard, bear, and a lion, and we kind of described why that is. What else? In the second paragraph, once again, right, it says it's allowed to exercise authority for 42 months, right? And we saw in the book of Daniel, it's allowed to exercise authority, right, for how long? For a time, times, and half a time, which is 3.5 years, which is also 42 months, right? This is why I said it's important to watch my 3.5 videos to understand all these time frames. And once again, it's allowed to make war with the saints and to conquer them. We saw in the Daniel verse that it's allowed to conquer the saints, right? And authority was given for every tribe, people, and language and nation, all who dwell on the earth, to worship it. And we saw in the book of Daniel, right, that they shall change the times in the law, and everyone, will worship it. So, like I said, it's kind of beautiful prophecy in a way, because it's perfectly tied in with all the way from way back then in the time of Daniel, all the way till now, perfectly in sync with each other. And like I said, God gives us all these signs so we're aware and spiritually discerned, because after all the tribulation that comes, there is amazingness towards the end, right?